You know, as someone who's obviously a concerned taxpayer and obviously trying to figure out how this town is going to get back to this fiscal responsibility, you know that I've been reviewing the budget, and I continue to do that. And we all know that the largest line item in our budget is, of course, personnel, so I've been looking at that. I've also been looking at it also in response to both Antonucci and Chief Bloom's public statements made last time, and I wanted to speak about those. Both of them mentioned, which I think is ironic, and I'll share with you in a moment, how I made some misstatements about the fire department. I mentioned that we have 11 lieutenants, and you know, I think one of the reasons why they both showed up is because I spent about an hour and a half with each of them, talking with them before last meeting. They went in to tell me the history of how we had lieutenants and what happened with that. And it was that the department decided to create the lieutenant role. So we promoted 11 firefighters to lieutenant and backfilled those positions and augmented the size of the Hoboken Fire Department by 11 people. And he mentioned at the last council meeting, Chief Bloom, that this violated union rules. What he failed to mention was that the rule violated was that there wasn't enough differentiation between the roles and responsibilities of a lieutenant and a captain. They won that argument. When they decided, when they had to figure out what to do with these 11 promoted lieutenants, they made the argument that they should be promoted to captain, and they won that argument. So the net result of this 3 to 5 year exercise was that we went from 25 captains to 36 captains, and we increased the fire department by 11 people. Again, it's interesting that they were correcting me because, of course, I got this information via an OBRA request, which for anybody who doesn't know how the process works, of course, is you submit something to the clerk, and they dispatch that to the department that would have that information. In this case, it would be the Hoboken Fire Department. So, of course, that information, that erroneous information, was coming from their department. So I could actually sue the town on those grounds, holding them liable for providing misinformation. But of course, I'm not going to do that. But I think it's ironic because obviously the information I'm getting is from the town. And also, talking about the lieutenants and making a big deal that we had lieutenants and they were not lieutenants and captains is really, in my point of view, is really obfuscating the point that I was trying to make, is that we have a 1-to-2 ratio of management to non-management. We have 46 people in management in the fire department for 92 firefighters. And this is what's really way off. And I think that it's ironic that Chief Bloom actually gave that information and demonstrated some of the things that happened kind of behind the scenes that basically ended up bloating the fire department in terms of management. Again, I think that this is the reason why we need transparency. The second correction that was made was that I stated that we cut a check for $375,000 for a unused vacation, and that had applied to a chief, and that is correct. It was actually for former police chief LaBruno. But I wanted to be more clear on my point on that. A firefighter can accrue up to 244 days of unused vacation and comp time. So it's vacation and comp time. There is absolutely nothing that would prevent them, however, going into retirement if they had days in excess of that number to just take them as vacation. So let's say you had someone who had 300 days of accrued comp time and vacation. They would just take the 36 days as paychecks. So they just won't come into work. And then the day of their official retirement, they would get a check for the 244 days.
1 minute, please.
I've done a lot of work for you. I think you're going to want to see what I have.
1 minute.
I have 2 points. Chief Bloom has 243 days accrued, valued at $166,000. For his terminal pay, which is 5 days for each of his 31 years, that's another $106,000. And I also want to make it clear that from last week is that I'm not suggesting that we take away any of these benefits. I'm really just saying eliminate the ability for further accrual of these benefits, eliminate them going forward. And also, Anton went on to say that we shouldn't take their benefits away. They're not benefits, they're not necessities. I also want to make sure everybody understands that I'm not suggesting we take benefits away. I'm suggesting that the municipal workers contribute to monthly premiums. From 2007 to 2008, as stated at the school board meeting, expenses increased by 23%. When I went and I did some numbers on this, I had to actually look back at the budget 4 times at the health care numbers. I couldn't believe it was that high. We we spend $19,000 per employee for health benefits.
Your time is up. I don't know how much more you have to go.
Let her speak.
I appreciate what
Let her speak.
We want to hear it.
I have a list full of speakers, ladies
So
and
what?
gentlemen.
So what?
I have no doubt that you want
If you're actually, I also think the parking authority should actually do scenarios through financial modeling, which is what this is. I wanted to run you through an example of what, and this is basically taking the fire department back down to a 1-to-5 ratio of management to non-management. Assuming that the acting chief retires at 31 years, again, we would give him this, he would save $187,000 a year in salary, plus another $19,000 for his benefits, okay? If we eliminated 6 of the battalion chiefs and none of them wanted to retire, they would bump, because there's bumping rights, right? So they would go down to captain level, and then the captains would go down. Keeping firefighters, which is really important, at 92, so keeping the people on the street, as they say, the same. That would be the same. We'd end up demoting people and then lopping off the bottom. The average salary per the contract is not $36,000 or $35,000, what Chief Bloom said. It's actually $41,000, and it doesn't.
Wrapping up, Council President, or is she going to go on and on and on? Is she wrapping up?
On and on and on.
Is she wrapping up?
Are you taking over?
No, sir. I apologize.
This would be a good day to get rid of
She's
people.
wrapping up.
Good night to get rid of people. We could all go home early if we have people talking out of turn.
I apologize, Council
Ms.
President.
Antonucci.
Thank you.
30 seconds, please.
Saving salaries of $1.4 million, ongoing basis, healthcare for 30 firefighters, $570,000. Ongoing savings, $2 million. If you go to the following page and you ask